When was it time to stop being Mr. Nice Guy? My girlfriend came home at 2 a.m. with her underwear and dress torn open, screaming for me to help her. She collapsed into my arms, and I could feel her whole body trembling. She kept throwing up and shaking all over our carpet. I helped her to the couch and got her a glass of water while trying to stay calm myself, because I was sure my worst fear just happened. Juna is without a doubt the strongest person I know. She worked as a prosecutor and dealt with assaulters, PDF files, and slaughterers every day without flinching. But now she looked broken and small, literally rocking on our couch. She kept apologizing for ruining my night, which made no sense, and I assured her she did nothing wrong. At the club, some guy had cornered her outside the bathroom when she was alone. According to her, he towered over her, was super muscular, and his breath reeked of whiskey. He pushed her against the wall and put his hands where they didn't belong while she screamed for help. The music was too loud and her friends were too far away. She tried to fight back, but he already had his way with her. The worst part was what happened next. Juna found security and told them exactly what occurred. She pointed out the guy who was laughing with his friends near the VIP section. The bouncer just shrugged and said, "What do you want me to do without any witnesses, lady?" Then he leaned in close and told her that the guy was the owner's nephew, so maybe she should just go home and sleep it off, and that it probably wasn't that bad. I felt rage building in my chest as Juna explained how the manager said the same thing, how her friends wanted to call the police, but the staff threatened to ban them, all of them, from every club in a 5-mile radius for causing trouble. Literally, other women at the club whispered that the same guy had done this before, but nothing ever happened. The place protected him because his uncle owned 3 clubs in the city. Juna was a prosecutor who put criminals away for a living, but even she knew this would go nowhere. Rich guys with connections didn't face consequences for raping women in dark clubs. There would be no cameras in that hallway and no witnesses willing to testify. The system she worked for every day had failed her completely. I held her while she cried and felt more helpless than ever before in my life. I didn't know people who could handle this kind of thing. There was nothing I could do that would touch that man, but then I remembered that my father would know what to do. My dad had spent 30 years working construction in the roughest parts of the city. He knew people from a different world than mine, people who handled problems outside the law when the law wouldn't help. I'd spent my whole life trying to distance myself from that part of his past, but now I needed it. The next morning while Juna was sleeping, I drove to my parents' house. My dad was drinking coffee in the garage, like always, surrounded by his tools and old boxing trophies. I told him everything and watched his face go from confused to furious. He set down his mug so hard it spilled everywhere. "You know the guy's name?" he asked in a voice I'd never heard before. I showed him the club's Instagram where the nephew was tagged in VIP photos, flashing expensive watches and bottles. My dad studied the pictures like he was memorizing every detail of the guy's face. My father made some calls right there in the garage. I could only hear his side of the conversations, but they were short and serious. He used names I didn't recognize and mentioned favors that were owed. When he hung up, he told me to go home and take care of Juna. He said he would handle everything else. 3 days later, the local news reported that the club owner's nephew had been found in an alley behind one of his uncle's properties. Both his hands were broken in multiple places. His ribs were all broken. His eyes were swollen, and he had a $1,000 bottle of tequila shoved up his bum. The report said no witnesses came forward and no cameras covered that particular alley, so they couldn't prosecute anyone. The interesting part was what they found in his apartment during the investigation. Hard drives full of videos he'd taken of women at the clubs without their knowledge. Pictures and underwear he kept as trophies from his assaults. Evidence of at least 15 victims over 3 years. The police said they'd received an anonymous tip about where to look. All 3 clubs shut down within a month when the investigations expanded. The owner was arrested for covering up his nephew's crimes and bribing city officials. 7 women came forward to press charges once they knew he couldn't hurt them anymore. Juna wasn't one of them, but she followed every development in the case. My dad never said anything about it directly. When I tried to thank him, he just squeezed my shoulder and changed the subject to baseball. But I noticed he had new scars on his knuckles that hadn't been there before. Juna noticed too, but never asked about them. My father knew people who operated by different rules. Rules that said men who hurt women deserved to have their hands broken so badly they'd never touch anyone again. I'm not proud that I made that call, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat.